So when we start, the myClass.main gets executed. That gets added to the call stack. And in there we print out the result of calling factorial of 3. So the next thing gets added to the call stack is factorial of 3, where n is equal to 3. And now we enter the factorial method. If n is equal to 0, so we check n is 3 equal to 0? And that would be false. And so therefore we'd execute the else branch, which is return n times factorial of n minus 1. So first n being 3 times, and now we have to find out the results of factorial of n minus 1. So we have to calculate n minus 1. So that's 3 minus 1 is 2. And now we have to find out what the factorial of 2 is. So that gets added to the call stack. While you're teaching jeliot, it's a good idea to stop at points and ask the students to predict or write down or at least talk to their elbow partner what's going to be the next step. So now that we're in factorial of 2, what do they think they'll see next? This is a good place to stop and make them predict. What they should see is that they're going to see the 2 come out as n and a test to see if that's equal to 0, which will be, again, another test to ask them to predict. Is 2 equal to 0? Is that true or false? That's false, so therefore the else branch is going to run. And n again is 2, and 2 times factorial of n minus 1, so we have to calculate n minus 1. So 2 minus 1, and I'm just hitting the step button to go through each of these, is equal to 1. So now we have to wait and find out what the result of factorial of 1 is before we can finish this calculation. Factorial of 1, we start off as if n is equal to 1, so n is 1 equal to 0, and the result is false. And then we have to return, so we execute the else branch, which is return n, which is 1, times n minus 1, factorial of n minus 1, so n minus 1 is 0, because 1 minus 1 is 0. And so now we'll call factorial with 0. And we call factorial with 0, this is the base case, when n is equal to 0, so in this case n is 0, so 0 is equal to 0, and that will be true. When that's true, we're going to return a 1. So we can finally now return, put this value in the return, and you'll see it show up here, for that call on the call stack. So we'll replace now, remove that call from the call stack and return a 1 from it. And that call stack was waiting, it had n of 1 times factorial of 0, and it was waiting to find the result of factorial of 0. And now we can go ahead and substitute that in, which is 1. So we find factorial of 1 is 1, and now we can return that. And you can just hit play to continue going, and I can speed up the animation if I want, make it a little faster. But again, it's important to stop at points and ask the students to predict what's going to happen. And the end result is we print out the result of factorial 3, which is 6. Enjoy jeliot.